There comes a point in our lives where the external world collapses around us. Maybe it's a relationship you thought would last forever, a job you dedicated your life to, your health, a dream. Sometimes it feels like the rug is pulled from beneath you, and you're left floating in a space of uncertainty, fear, and silence. And in that silence, something extraordinary can happen. See, the mind, our beautiful, brilliant mind, has been conditioned to equate security with the external, what we can touch, possess, label. When all of that is stripped away, what remains? You, and what's more, something greater than you, something infinite, something eternal. Let me tell you this: loss is not the end. Loss is the invitation, it's the portal. When the material world no longer holds your identity, that's when you become available to a new frequency of truth. That's when God, however you define that divine intelligence, steps in and becomes everything. But this is not the God you were taught to fear. This is not the distant figure in the sky keeping score. No. This is the field that breathes you. This is the consciousness that holds galaxies in its palm, and yet speaks to you in the language of synchronicity, intuition, and love. This is the God that lives within you, the God you've always carried, quiet, patient, waiting for you to remember. And it often takes losing everything to hear that whisper. You see, when you no longer have the distraction of your story, your trauma, your attachment to outcomes, when all you have left is the stillness, you begin to access the quantum realm of the soul. A realm not governed by time, lack, or fear, a realm governed by possibility, intention, and presence. In that space you don't beg for healing. You become it. You don't chase peace, you embody it. God doesn't come to you like a stranger. God reveals that you were never separate to begin with. Here's the truth. What feels like breakdown is often breakthrough. But you have to choose to see it that way. You have to be willing to feel the pain without numbing it, to face the void without running from it, and to open your heart in the middle of your suffering, not after it, because that's when transformation happens. And when you surrender, not as a victim, but as a creator, you activate something ancient in your DNA, a remembering that you are not your bank account, not your past, not your body. You are a piece of the eternal mind in motion. And through that awareness, God becomes your everything, because there is finally space for everything else to fall away. So if you've lost it all, let me say this clearly: you're not being punished, you're being prepared. You're being initiated into your true power, not the power that comes from control, but the power that comes from alignment. This is the gift of losing everything. You finally stop looking out there and start listening in here. And what you find there will change your life forever. Loss is a portal to transformation, not an ending. It doesn't feel like that at first. When we experience the collapse of everything familiar, our relationships, careers, health, or sense of purpose, the nervous system interprets it as danger, as death. The mind scrambles to restore what was, to return to the known, because the unknown feels threatening. But it's in this very space of dismantling that a hidden intelligence begins to emerge. Not the kind you read in books or learn from someone else, but the kind that rises from within when there is nothing left to hold on to. When everything is stripped away, the roles you played, the masks you wore, the attachments that defined you, they all dissolve, and in that emptiness a space is created. It's in this space that the seed of transformation is planted. What you're experiencing isn't the end of your life. It's the end of a version of you that could no longer grow. The ego, which built its identity around stability, control, and predictability, sees loss as annihilation. But to the soul, loss is initiation, a passageway, a sacred dismantling of illusions. The chaos, the uncertainty, the emotional pain, they're not obstacles to your evolution. They're catalysts. They're what shake the foundation hard enough so something deeper can be built. This is where transformation begins, not in comfort but in collapse, not in answers but in questions. In that vulnerable space where the old has fallen away and the new hasn't yet arrived, the conditions become ideal for change. You are being invited to cross a threshold, to step into a new dimension of awareness, one that couldn't be accessed while clinging to what was. Most people resist this stage because it demands surrender. But transformation never happens on the timeline of the ego. The external world is not your true identity. From the moment we are born, we're conditioned to define ourselves by what we see, touch, and achieve. We inherit names, titles, roles, and expectations, and slowly, almost unconsciously, we begin to believe that these outer layers are who we are. We measure our worth by our relationships, our status, our income, our possessions. We create a self-image based on reflections from the outside world. And while this image can offer temporary security or validation, it is fragile, because it's built on things that can change, break, or disappear. When the structures around us begin to collapse, we often experience a deep sense of loss, not only because something has ended, but because we believed that thing defined us. The job loss feels like a loss of purpose. The end of a relationship feels like a loss of identity. Illness or aging can feel like a threat to who we are. But all of these experiences are not destroying the self. They are revealing the false self. They are pulling back the curtain on the illusion that who you are is dependent on anything external. There is a deeper self that exists beneath all of that, untouched, unchanged, unbroken. It's the part of you that observes rather than reacts, that witnesses rather than clings. It doesn't need the world to affirm its existence because it draws its strength from within. It is pure awareness, not shaped by circumstance. When you begin to detach from the external as your source of identity, something powerful happens. You no longer chase things to feel whole. You start to remember that you are already whole. The external world becomes an experience, not a definition. It serves as a reflection, not a foundation. God is the intelligence within, not outside of you. For centuries, we've been taught to look upward, outward, or beyond ourselves to find God, as if divinity lives in some far-off realm, accessible only through rituals, intermediaries, or worthiness. But when life breaks you open, when the external structures you leaned on fall apart, you begin to discover a different truth. You find that God has never been separate from you. That divine presence isn't hidden in the sky or locked away in holy places. It's woven into your breath, your heartbeat, your awareness. This intelligence doesn't speak in the language of fear, shame, or rules. It communicates through intuition, synchronicity, insight, and love. It guides not by commanding, but by aligning. It is the quiet knowing that surfaces when your mind grows still, the spark of life that animates your body and keeps your heart beating through every season of uncertainty. It's the energy you feel when you close your eyes and drop beneath thought, beneath identity, into pure presence. When you begin to turn inward, especially after loss or crisis, you begin to sense that this divine intelligence is not only present, it is you. Not the ego, not the personality, but the consciousness beneath all of it. The same presence that created galaxies lives in the still point at the center of your being. It doesn't need you to strive for it, prove yourself, or earn its approval. It waits for your recognition. It reveals itself in moments of surrender, in the space between thoughts, in the breath you take when you stop reaching and start listening. This shift, from seeing God as separate to realizing God as within, is not philosophical. It is experiential. It happens in silence, in solitude, and most often, in the aftermath of losing everything you thought you needed to be. Whole stillness reveals the presence of the divine. In the noise of the world, in the endless stream of thoughts, distractions, and responsibilities, the voice of the divine often gets drowned out. We move so fast, grasping for outcomes, controlling circumstances, reacting to every trigger, that we forget there is another layer of existence available to us, one that cannot be accessed through effort, but through presence. Stillness is not the absence of movement, but the absence of resistance. It is a state where the thinking mind softens, and the awareness behind it begins to shine through. When you enter stillness, not just physically but internally, you begin to sense a vastness within you. It's subtle, quiet, and profound. It doesn't shout for attention, it waits patiently. In that still space, the veil between the physical and the spiritual thins. You begin to feel connected to something beyond logic, beyond language, beyond time. This is not imagination or wishful thinking. It is the experience of returning to your natural state, the state that exists before thought, before identity, before fear. In stillness, the nervous system begins to regulate. The brain moves out of survival mode. The heart becomes coherent. The body no longer feels like a battlefield but a sanctuary. It is here, in this state of inner alignment, that divine intelligence becomes perceivable. You don't have to go searching for signs. It begins to show up naturally. Insights arise, emotions heal, the body regenerates, the energy around you shifts. This is not because you forced it, but because you aligned with the frequency where the divine resides. The more time you spend in stillness, the more you realize that it is not empty at all. It is full, full of presence, full of wisdom, full of connection to the part of you that is infinite and eternal. Pain is the doorway to presence and power. It's one of the most misunderstood aspects of the human experience. We're taught to avoid it, suppress it, numb it, or escape from it as quickly as possible. But pain, whether emotional, physical, or spiritual, is never random. It's a signal, a call to come home. It shows up to interrupt the trance of distraction and bring us back into the immediacy of the moment. Pain strips away pretense. It brings us face to face with what is real, what is unresolved, and what is essential. In the moment of deep pain, everything unnecessary falls away. There's no room for superficiality, no tolerance for inauthenticity. The mind may try to understand or control the experience, but the body knows the truth. It brings you into presence. Into your breath, into your body, into the now. This is where transformation begins, not in the avoidance of pain, but in the willingness to feel it fully without resistance. Through pain, a deeper strength begins to emerge. A strength not built on dominance or force, but on clarity and surrender. Pain opens you to parts of yourself that you never knew existed. It reveals the tenderness behind the armor, the light inside the brokenness. If you allow it, pain becomes the very force that dissolves the false self and awakens your soul. This awakening doesn't come through explanation, it comes through experience. Pain doesn't just ask you to heal, it asks you to wake up, to feel everything, to stop running, and in doing so, you begin to access a deeper power. Not power over, but power within. A kind of power that comes when you realize that you are not your suffering, but the awareness that can hold it all without being consumed by it. Breakdowns often precede breakthroughs. It's easy to see a breakdown as failure, as the point where everything falls apart and nothing makes sense. But breakdowns are not the end. They are the necessary dismantling of structures that no longer serve your growth. Whether it's a mental, emotional, or spiritual collapse, it's often the only way the old self can be released to make room for something new. The mind resists this process because it fears the unknown, but the soul understands that breakdown is a signal of transformation in motion. When you are in the middle of a breakdown, it may feel like chaos. Old patterns resurface, emotions you thought you buried return with intensity. Life stops making sense and the foundation you once stood on begins to crumble. This is not punishment. This is purification. The breakdown clears away what is no longer in alignment with your highest potential. It exposes the illusions, the false beliefs, the emotional residue that was keeping you stuck. And in the space it creates, a new possibility begins to emerge. Breakthroughs do not come through comfort. They come through confrontation. The confrontation with your own limits, your pain, your attachments, your fears. In the process of breaking down, your identity starts to loosen. The ego's grip weakens, and what emerges from the ashes is not a repaired version of the old you, but an entirely new expression of your being. One that is more aligned, more aware, more connected to truth. This cycle of breakdown and breakthrough is not linear. It's cyclical. Each time you meet a new edge, life invites you to let go a little deeper, trust a little more, and surrender to the intelligence that is orchestrating your evolution from within. Surrender is the beginning of creation. Most of us are conditioned to believe that creation comes from control, effort, and planning. We're taught to push, strive, and make things happen. But true creation, the kind that comes from alignment with the deeper intelligence of life, begins only when we let go. Surrender is not about giving up, it's about giving over. It's the act of releasing the illusion that we are separate from the flow of life and recognizing that something greater knows how to carry us forward when we stop resisting. In surrender, the nervous system softens, the mind releases its grip on outcome, the heart opens to possibilities that logic cannot conceive. It's in this state that the energy of creation begins to move through us. When we are no longer attached to forcing results or manipulating outcomes, we become available to inspiration. We enter a space where clarity, ideas, and insight arise spontaneously, not from willpower, but from coherence with something deeper than thought. This state of surrender allows you to access the quantum field, where all potentials already exist. From this space, you're not reacting to life. You are participating in the unfolding of it. You begin to sense that you are both the vessel and the current, both the observer and the creator. The more you let go of how things should look, the more space you make for what wants to emerge naturally through you. Surrender dismantles the ego's agenda and opens the door to the soul's design. It is in the space of surrender that real miracles begin to occur, not because you forced them, but because you stopped blocking them. When you release resistance, you align with the intelligence that knows how to turn endings into beginnings and silence into the language of creation. You are not your past, your job, or your story. For much of life, identity is built on what has happened to you, what you've achieved, or what roles you've played. These layers become like clothing you forget you're wearing. You begin to think you are the pain you've endured, the title you've earned, or the narrative you've repeated for years. But when everything falls away, when loss removes the familiar, you're given a rare opportunity to see yourself beyond the surface. What remains is not the brokenness or the history, but the awareness that has always witnessed it all. The past can inform you, but it does not define you. Your job can express your gifts, but it is not your essence. Even your most cherished stories, about who you are, where you come from, and what you've overcome, are just interpretations layered over a deeper truth. Beneath it all is consciousness itself, untouched by experience. This is the part of you that remains whole even when the world around you crumbles. When you start to question the roles you've identified with, you begin to touch a freedom that was always there. You're not limited by what happened to you or what others see in you. You are the one who can watch your thoughts, feel your emotions, and still know there's more. This is the beginning of remembering who you truly are, not as an identity, but as a presence. Letting go of your story doesn't mean denying it. It means recognizing that it is only one layer of a much greater being. And the moment you stop clinging to the definition of yourself that was built on the past, you become available to a version of you that is not limited by it. When you lose everything, you gain clarity. Loss has a way of stripping away all the noise, the distractions, and the illusions that cloud our vision. When everything familiar falls away, you're left standing in the rawness of reality. No masks, no filters, no pretenses. In this vulnerability, a kind of clarity emerges that is impossible to access when life is comfortable and predictable. Losing everything removes the false layers that obscure your true self, allowing you to see what really matters. This clarity is not just intellectual understanding, it is an embodied knowing. It arises from the deep stillness beneath the chaos, where the mind quiets and the heart opens. Suddenly, priorities realign. You begin to understand that the things you chased before, the status, possessions, approval, were never the source of fulfillment. Instead, the essence of your being, your connection to something greater, becomes unmistakably clear. Loss can bring you face to face with what is truly essential, revealing what was hidden by fear, attachment, or habit. In this newfound clarity, there is a profound sense of freedom. When you no longer depend on external circumstances to define your peace, you tap into an inner sanctuary that cannot be shaken. You start to recognize that your worth and your purpose are not tied to what you have, but to who you are at your core. The fog of confusion lifts, and with it comes a powerful ability to see opportunities where before there were only obstacles. Clarity born from loss cuts through illusion and reveals the truth beneath. It sharpens your intuition and strengthens your resolve. With this clear vision, you are better equipped to rebuild, to create, and to step into a life aligned with your deepest truth. True power comes from inner alignment, not outer control. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that power means dominating circumstances, controlling people, or managing every detail of life. We chase authority, status, and influence as measures of our strength. But this type of power is fragile and often leads to resistance, conflict, and exhaustion. Real power, lasting, transformative power, arises from a different place entirely. It begins inside, in the alignment between your mind, heart, and spirit. Inner alignment means that your thoughts, emotions, and actions are coherent and working together toward a unified purpose. When you are aligned within, you are connected to your deepest values and highest intentions. This connection creates a magnetic force that draws opportunities, people, and experiences to you naturally. You don't have to push or force outcomes because your energy is in flow with the greater intelligence of life. This flow cultivates resilience and clarity, enabling you to respond to challenges with presence rather than reaction. When you seek outer control, you're often trying to manage uncertainty and protect yourself from vulnerability. But inner alignment invites you to embrace uncertainty and trust your inherent wisdom. It's a state where fear and anxiety diminish, and confidence and peace arise. The power you gain through alignment is not about control over others, but mastery over yourself. It's the ability to hold your center regardless of external chaos, to create from a place of authenticity rather than compulsion, and to influence through presence rather than pressure. This kind of power transforms not only your life, but the lives of those around you. It radiates calm, strength, and compassion. It opens the door to creative possibilities that outer control could never unlock, because true creation always flows from harmony within, not domination without.